For my project, I researched how different components of cars work. In my presentation, I will give a basic overview of how cars work and specifically how the powertrain works. The powertrain is a system that is required to make the car move. Since I am limited on time, I will only be giving a detailed explanation of the most important part of the powertrain, which is the common internal combustion engine. This diagram shows most of the important parts inside the engine. I will give a brief explanation of each part, starting from the bottom and moving to the top, and I will explain each part's role in the combustion process. The part labeled C is the crankshaft. This takes the linear energy from the motion of the piston and transforms it into rotational energy. The crankshaft will be significant later in the presentation. The part labeled R is the connecting rod, which connects the piston to the crankshaft. The part labeled P is the piston, which moves up and down in the cylinder with the help of combustion. The two parts labeled V are the intake and exhaust valves. The intake valve, labeled I, allows for air to enter the cylinder, and the exhaust valve, labeled E, allows air to exit the cylinder after each explosion. One very important part that is not included in this image is the fuel injector, which sprays a mist of gasoline into the air that enters the cylinder through the intake valve. Finally, the part labeled S is the spark plug, which ignites the mixture of air and fuel, thus creating a short, controlled explosion. Having established the role of each part of the engine, we can take a closer look at what really happens. This diagram helps explain the process of combustion. The first step is the intake stroke, which allows for clean air to enter the cylinder through the intake valve. Next, the air is compressed as the piston moves upward to create pressurized air, and during this step, the gasoline mixture is sprayed into the cylinder from the fuel injectors. After the air-fuel mixture is completely pressurized, as the piston reaches the top of the cylinder, the spark plug creates a spark, which ignites the mixture and propels the third stroke, known as the power stroke. The final stroke is the exhaust stroke, in which all the dirty air from the explosion is flushed from the cylinder through the exhaust valve. This video shows a moving representation of the process. Finally, we'll look at how the engine sends its power to the wheels. The power from the engine is harnessed through the rotation of the crankshaft, which sends rotational energy to the torque converter. The torque converter links the engine to the transmission, and from the torque converter, the power is sent to the transmission, which contains several different gears. These gears allow the car to be efficient in delivering power. The gears in the transmission operate under the same principles as the gears in a bicycle. The low gears allow you to get started moving easier, whereas the high gears allow you to cruise at a higher speed with less effort. Finally, the power from the transmission is sent out through the drive shaft, which sends the power through the differential, or in this diagram, the final drive, to each wheel, which causes the wheels to rotate, sending your car into motion.